So once again, October 24, I hope 50 million solosexuals will join me in going on a strike at work to raise awareness that solosexuals have lives too. October 24th is Polish idol of Ewelina Falenta's 43rd birthday, and she is most likely solosexual. I really enjoy watching her romantic story during the entire pandemic. Go to her Facebook page or go watch her YouTube channel. And I have to confess, I misunderstood her for many years. At the beginning of her career, when she was singing all these romantic songs, I'm like, where's the guy? And I got angry at her. I thought she was making all this stuff up, and I got angry at her because I thought she was hiding her body from everybody else, and I didn't really understand it until much later in her career. And now I think it's the most beautiful romantic relationship ever. If only everybody else would accept it, right? It does get a little bit more acceptance in Poland, I gotta say. I've stayed in hostels in Poland. I've gone to the Gdansk Bay a few times. I don't think I could get that kind of level of service here in the United States. For one thing, I traveled there for almost a month one time. Here in the United States, the idea of staying alone in a hostel for a month doesn't get very well received, right? Even when I was traveling in the Rocky Mountains, people just see you as a almost like a vagabond, right? Not as a person who just likes to live alone and have some space and not have a family to drag around, right? But I do want to bring up a couple more working condition demands. One thing, this is going to sound really futuristic, but hear me out on it. I hope we can have an anonymous system for asking for vacation time. So for example, this will work especially well if you're not one of the high key employees, right? If you're a key decision maker, it might not work too well. But imagine you have a team of 8 or 10 colleagues who all have similar identities and backgrounds, right? And at any given time, let's say it's out of 8, at any time 6 of them have to be in there for it to work out. I don't see why the team could not have an anonymous vacation request system where you would enter what days you want, and your boss would say yes or no to that without seeing who it is or what they want the vacation time off for, right? Because let's face it, a lot of times we're treated almost like a commodity anyway, right? So for example, if I have 1,000 pounds of bismuth and I want to sell 20 or 30 pounds of it, do I care exactly what bars they are, right? I liken it to that, right? Why does it matter, right? See, when I put money in my bank account, right, and then I spend some of it buying bismuth, I don't tell the bank, hey, use the money from the paycheck I got on so-and-so date to buy it, right? So why does our employers care who it is that's going on vacation, or more importantly, why we're going on vacation, right? Now, the reason for that is that I want our personal lives to be none of the employer's business, right? Right now, I'm kind of worried about asking for some time off to go to a conference next year, because I've caused a lot of strife going to these conferences at other workplaces. My boss just thinks that I'm dedicating too much time with these side hustles. The reality is that the side hustles are enhancing my they're taking my mind away from work and giving me some balance. That's the reality. But a lot of times at work, it gets received as you're doing all this other crap besides work, right? You're pouring bismuth crystals, you're going to computer gaming conferences, you're networking with people, you're traveling to Wallace, Idaho alone. A lot of people don't receive it very well, right? Just because my lifestyle is very different. I could say the same thing about my colleagues, right? You're going to Las Vegas, you're having sex with your partner, you're whatever, right? If I wanted to, right? Of course, if I said that, it would not be popular because that's the popular view, right? Of doing those things. And so I want it to be acceptable to request vacation anonymously. In fact, I'm thinking about a pilot program. I'm going to create an anonymous email and email my boss and says, one of your subordinates wants to go on vacation on so and so date. Do you approve? And if that goes very well, I don't know if it will go well, but if it doesn't, then I could raise awareness. This is a great vacation program if we could do it. It was only a pilot program, but especially if it goes well, then I could tell my boss who it was, and do you like this program? And it'll be a good way to start it. I don't know. Feel free to leave a comment about how else I could clean up that email. I'm thinking just create an email called anonymous blah 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 at gmail.com. Email my boss, says, dear Mr. whatever, one of your subordinates would like to take a vacation on so and so date, right? October 24 or when's the next eclipse? November 13, whatever it was. Do you approve? And see what happens. I don't know. If it doesn't go well and I don't feel comfortable about it, I could just pretend it never happened, right? It might as well have been some kind of prank email that somebody else we don't know about sent, right? That's what I love about this idea. Anyway, anonymous. I gotta point out something though. Just because something is public policy doesn't mean it will happen. So I had a frustration at my last workplace. It was only a minor frustration out of all the good times I had there. So I'm trying not to hold it too much against my boss. But I had a burnout situation. I loved my last tutoring gig, but one day I woke up and it was like just, oh my God, before I got to recharge from yesterday, today is starting. Before I get to recharge from today, tomorrow is starting, and I just got very, I just got very mentally jammed, and so I told my boss, I don't think I have any COVID-19 tests, and I don't feel kind of right, and maybe it's not a great idea if I come in, and the following day I felt so much better. I went to the Bellevue Botanical Garden, and instantly, before I knew it, I was like, oh my God, why didn't I go to work today? And so the next day I went back, and at the end of that week, as my boss was preparing the payroll, I asked him, do I have any sick time? Because I believe after I've worked here for this long, in Washington, even if you're working part-time, you get 1 hour of sick time for every 40 hours you work, as long as your employer, I think, has at least 15 employees, which we did. And he refused to acknowledge it. He says, we're kind of small, we don't have the budget for that and whatever. I knew he was breaking the law. But you know what? There were so many things he did right. But it just reinforced the idea that just because something is written down, right? If you don't hold it, you don't own it. It gave me a reinforcement of that concept. So that was okay. Now, there is one policy I don't like, and unfortunately, he actually follows it. So in Washington State, there's a law that if you work more than 4 hours, they need to give you a half-hour lunch break. You'd see a lot of times, if I needed a lunch break, I would negotiate it with him, right? But a lot of times I don't need it. In fact, it just makes the day a whole lot longer than it has to be. I normally fast 16 to 18 hours intermittent fasting anyway. So a lot of half an hour really isn't a long enough amount of time to start on some other personal project, right? I like to write AI for computer games. That's half an hour. You turn on your computer, you open up your code, and you take a look at it, and that's it, right? You hardly even got to input anything, right? It's not enough time to go home to do anything, and it just makes the day longer. Now, unfortunately, he loves that policy. He actually follows the law there. He doesn't follow the law when I actually need it to, right? It just goes to show that if you don't hold it, you don't own it, and nobody's going to complain to the state about their employer, right? That law might as well just not. It's more of a suggestion than anything else, right? Because nobody's going to complain, especially for somebody who doesn't have a lot of deep pockets, right? Like my former boss, right? If this were a Microsoft or a SpaceX that were doing that, it might be, or a federal or state employer who was doing that, it might be a different story, right? Anyway, think about the anonymous vacation time. Again, it sounds very futuristic, but you know what? Going to the moon was once very futuristic too.